Okay, mark it.
Caroline, take one. Malawi is in Africa, in the southern part of Africa. I moved to the UK in 2001. I was 12 years old when I moved here. It was in September, I don't know. Was it? We moved to Bristol. And that was a different, take on everything again, because it was busy, but it wasn't as busy as London was. It was a bit more quieter, and I was the only black person in the whole school. People were curious, like where I had come from. I mean, some people hadn't even heard of Africa before, or let alone Malawi. Malawi, where is that? Is that in China? And it's like, oh my gosh, no, it's not in China. It's in Africa. Which part of Africa? And you had to explain all these things. Like, they didn't really get that concept. It was like, wow, you actually come from a different place to us. Like, what is it like there? Do you guys live in trees? I thought, how can you live in a tree? Have you looked at a tree? How can you? The thing is just I don't know, like a bush, basically. You just live on a bush. That's what they think. You don't have you don't have cars, you don't have anything. You've got a bush, basically, with you don't even have clothes. You wear like leaves or something. I think that's the perception that they have of it. But people are entitled to their own opinion, and if you don't know, if they genuinely don't know, then you can't really crucify them for that.
I moved to England I think it was the 18th of November 99. I've lived here longer than I've lived in my birth country of Jamaica. It was just really strange because when I started high school, there was one white person in my school in Jamaica. And then I came to school, and in my year, I think I was one of 3 black people in my year. And it was strange because people were looking at me, and obviously at the time as well, I had this Jamaican accent. So everyone wanted to hear me talk.
I moved to England when I was 8 years old, so in 2005. And I moved to Derby and then moved to Stoke a year later. I guess, I don't know if there's not that many people who went to that school from Africa, so they were very inquisitive, because I think people who live here, maybe at a young age, they only see certain stereotypical views of a place like Africa, and they think that, I don't know, we all live in the wildlife and we go hunting for goats and we walk barefoot and we don't have any phones, or we live in mud huts, for example. But yeah, they were just really inquisitive, and I never really blamed them because they didn't really know any better. They hadn't really had the opportunity to experience or to see what it was actually like. They only knew what they were given, which is stereotypes of Africa.
I came to the UK when I was 13 years old, and that was back in 2002. So I've been here 13 years. Back home, the only British people you see is like Jeffrey off Fresh Prince. So you're thinking everybody's gonna be talking like Master William, that kind of stuff. So when I got here, and then it was like Stoke, a council estate, yeah, it wasn't like that at all. So I remember, like, first day of school, a British school. I mean, it was like everybody was real curious about Florida. People would ask me, like, do you go to the beach every day? I'm like, no. Do you go to Stonehenge every day? People do things like, oh, can't touch your hair. I remember being in science one time, and like I used to have a big afro, like that big, and I didn't even know. People were putting pencils in my hair like that, and I'm like this in lesson, and people behind, they were so sly, like. Then I just do one of these, and it's just like there's like 4 pencils in my hair, and I'm like, you guys have got to be kidding me. They all started busting out laughing.
I think everything was different. The weather was incredibly different. It took me a while to get used to snow.
My friend Heidi, she used to joke because even in the summer, I used to always be wearing a coat. where she's wearing a vest off or something like that. But me, I'm wearing a coat because I'm still cold.
When I first came here, the thing I really noticed was like, where's the sun? Where's the sun? We got out of the train station and then we got to Stoke and it was just grey. And I'm like, is it gonna rain? Do you need an umbrella? My mom's like, no, it should be fine.
And the first day that I came to England, I think I was a little bit disappointed. I don't know why, because I think I saw it as this big country, like, I don't know, not necessarily walking on gold or anything, but it wasn't what I expected. Like in Malawi, the houses are so huge and massive. And well, the house where I was living, it was massive. And I came here and I remember it was at my uncle's house. And it was between two other houses. And it was like this little, like 20 centimeter house. You just go through that door and that's your house. That's all you know. I remember coming into the house and thinking, okay, so where is the rest of the house? But what shocked me was how they build the houses here, because, you know, you walk in and you tend to this door and there was the kitchen, and you tend to that door and there was the bathroom, and it was like everything was so compact and the space was utilized.
My first challenge, and I know people are going to think this is weird, but it was escalators. I hated escalators because, like, in Jamaica, I'd never gone up or down an escalator. And the concept was weird. Like, these stairs are actually moving and I have to step on them. And my auntie was like, just put your foot on and you'll be fine. And yeah, I listened to her and I was like, it was okay. But I still was cautious of escalators for a long time.
I couldn't really say I had a full-blown experience with racism, but I guess there's certain things where you feel like you're being prevented from reaching your full potential because they don't believe you can do it, maybe because, I don't know, English is a second language. In high school, my English teacher, whenever I'd make still a lot of mistakes in my essays or whatever, and she'd pull me aside sometimes and say, you know, you made these mistakes in your essay, and I understand because English isn't your first language, and that wasn't really the reason why I made those mistakes. Because mistakes happen. I'm not a perfect human being. Or sometimes, for example, in my chemistry class, they'd put me to sit foundation papers, even though I wanted to sit a higher paper because I knew my potential. Because I think people see you in a certain way. No, I guess they can't help it because it's pretty obvious when you're black, and people have these stereotypes in their mind that, I don't know, sometimes they think you're not as good, maybe because English isn't your first language, for example.
And I remember arriving at Gatwick Airport in London, and I think I was a bit young, but I remember realizing that something was wrong. Like, there was something that was wrong. It wasn't normal, because we got out of the plane and we got escorted out, and we were sat in this little room. And I remember seeing my mum. I hadn't seen her for like a couple of months because she came first, got a house, whatever, prepared everything before we came. So I remember seeing her and, you know, hi mom, blah, 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 you know, we miss you, how are you, and all sorts. And she had tears in her eyes and she was crying. And I couldn't understand why she was crying. And I remember, I think my sister just sat there and she looked at me and she was just like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. And I was thinking, what's going to be okay? Like, we haven't crashed, we've landed, we're fine, you know, why are you guys crying? And I remember there was this guy that came into the room and he's like, we're going to ask you a few questions, you know, there's things that we need to be certain about. And I think they were asking questions about what would happen if we stayed in Malawi, why did we have to come? And she was trying to explain that she's basically the guardian, we have no one to look after us. Yes, you have grandma and granddad, but they're old and they can't keep up with 3 children or something along those lines. But they were trying to say that that's not justifiable, like these people don't really have to come to England. We don't understand why your children have to come. And, you know, she was trying to explain my husband is in America. He's still finishing off his PhD, so on and so forth. And there were just tears everywhere. And I think I started crying. I was crying because everyone else was crying and I didn't understand. But and then after a while, we got told that we had, I think it was a temporary visa or something like that, where we would be allowed to stay for about 3 days, but we had to take the next plane back or something. And I remember getting out of the actual room after hours and hours and hours. I think it was about maybe 19 hours or something we had been in there. They gave us food and all sorts, but it was just like, it was the first thing that we experienced, that I experienced in England, was that room for a long amount of hours.
I remember one girl, every day, she'd ask me where I was from. I don't know whether she kept forgetting or what, but every day, without fail, she would ask me the same question. Maybe she just wanted to hear me talk, listen to my accent, I don't know. One day, I think I just got fed up with it, and because I didn't understand why she was asking me this every day. And I told her, like, stop asking me because I've told you already. And she kicked me. And I was like, don't do that. And she did it again. So I got angry and I started punching her. We just got into a fight. Basically right there. We were queuing up to go in our form room. I just didn't understand how it had got from her asking me where I was from to us fighting.
People will be like, oh, you ever heard of the phrase black bastard or nignog or jungle bunny? I mean, it was like they see these phrases in like things like the Football Factory or Green Street or something like that. And they're like, oh, it'd be really clever if we use these phrases in real life. Let's see how it feels, you know. And it's like, oh, we're not being racist, but you ever heard of that? You know. I didn't ever got called nigger or anything like that. But it was still like other phrases around it and stuff. And it was like, I remember one guy, I'm not going to mention his name, and he was talking about some other person. I think she was quarter black or whatever. And he was saying, oh, yeah, you know, Castani, you black bastard. And then he's like, oh, not you, Anderson, you sound. And I was like, right, so that makes it okay, yeah? So school was weird. School was funny. I mean, I had some good fun times in school, but like, it was crazy how I come from America and I come to a posh Britain, and then Britain is where I realized racism is an actual thing.
You know, I was introduced to, I think it was the vice principal at the time of the school, St. Peter's. Then she introduced me to a girl called Heidi, and she was meant to like look after me because we had all the same classes. She was a really nice person. Like over the years, we became really close. She was my best friend for years. We'd just do everything together. Every weekend, like Sundays and stuff, I'd spend Sundays with her, just chilling with her and her family and feeling like a part of that family. Because like not knowing anyone and not really having any friends here, she made me feel so welcome, and her family, that I will always appreciate that.
I like to keep my roots and remember where I've come from, because I think that's played such a huge part in molding me to become who I am today. So I think that's something I could never let go of or forget. But at the same time, like I said, I've lived here for so long, so I feel like also this is it has also played a part in molding my character as well, living here.
When I go to Jamaica, I love it. Like it's great being with my family again and everything, and just enjoying the sunshine, going to the beach and just not having to wear a coat. But after a while of being in Jamaica, I start thinking, oh, England. But then once I'm here in England, I start thinking, Jamaica. So I'm kind of torn between the two. I don't think I'll ever have a definitive home. But as for now, I have two homes, which one is in St. Elizabeth, Jamaica, and one is in Stoke-on-Trent, England.
Where you get to shape your character, where you get to become whoever it is that you're going to become is in between the ages of, 1 and 7 or whatever. And I feel like because I experienced that in Malawi, that has a hold on me. But then having said that, I know it's kind of like contradictory, but between the ages of 12 and maybe about 16 or 18 or whatever, that's when you become a teenager and you rebel and all this happens or whatever, when you're shaping yourself as well. So I feel like because I've experienced that here, I've also kind of bonded with the British culture in a not a contradictory way, but I feel like it's the two halves that make me who I am. I'm not just British and I'm not just Malawi. I'm Caroline with these two aspects.